All right, so today we're going to be talking about living on your own as a single white female. I mean, you don't have to be white, but we are. So, Emma, how has it been for you living by yourself?
It honestly, it hasn't been too bad because, to be quite honest, I've been, in essence, living on my own since college because, so I moved out of state. I had a roommate my first year, but then every year after that, because I became an RA, I had my own room.
So, I forgot that you were by yourself mainly throughout all of college.
Yeah. So I didn't really have to worry about a roommate or like what my group would think because I have my own room. Well, my senior year, I did share the apartment with technically 4 other girls, but
they don't count.
It rotated between 3 girls. It was 2 steady ones, and then 2 of them flip-flopped semesters, so on that. But overall, living alone, while it's good and easy, like where I could just kind of like make my own schedule and do my own thing, it's nice, but I will admit that it does get quite lonely and boring. I run out of things to do. Well, not that I don't run out of things to do. My brain is no longer like, it's not activated, but active, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
You don't talk to yourself like I do?
I do talk to myself, but it's so much more entertaining when I can talk to another human, and a cat doesn't count. I mean, I did say to my therapist,
your cat would be very upset to hear you say that. How dare you not?
Oh, he's asleep in the corner.
How dare you not, like, actually say that they count? That's rude. That's a rude thing to say about cats.
Well, I mean, I did say to my therapist a couple months ago, and then we just had a new meeting this past month, that I was like, I think I need a boyfriend. And then I told her, I was like, no, I just needed a cat. Like, legit. I just needed another human or another animal of sorts in my house. And I have enough to deal with this guy. So I'm like, all right, now I can wait for a bit before I decide I really need to get a boyfriend.
I agree with you that I feel like the worst thing about living alone is being by yourself, because it does get very like lonely. And obviously, like, my lonely is very different than your lonely, because at least, you're around your parents and you can go and see people. But I live abroad, so I've been living abroad for the last 5 years of my life, and I don't even have anybody that is, like, close friends. I don't have family. I can call them, obviously, but it's just not the same, So I think you're right. Living alone is great because you get to do all these fun things that you never got to do before, like go to bed when you want and sleep naked if you want, and
eat what you want, and if you want ice cream for breakfast, you can have ice cream for breakfast.
Yeah. It's really great, but yeah, I think the loneliness is what really is quite hard, and that's actually one of the reasons I'm really excited about moving in, because like it'll be the first time since college that I had a roommate, and I won't have to talk to myself anymore. Well, I still talk to myself,
agree.
But
I mean, if I think about my parents, and both sets of parents talk to themselves in some way, shape, or form, and I'm like, oh, look at that! I've inherited that from both sets of parents. I'm like, this is great. So it's just genetic that I'm going to talk to myself at any given point in time. So I'm like, all right. So even if someone moves in, I will talk to inanimate objects and have a serious discussion with a pencil, or yell at the window for not opening when I want it to open.
You know what's interesting is we'll probably both join into those conversations, and then we'll just both be yelling at a pencil for no reason.
Yes, exactly. Like, if I'm at work and I'm yelling at an inanimate object, my coworker Carol goes, "Are you talking to me or are you talking to your computer again?" And I'll be like, "Carol, can you not understand that it's me and the computer having this discussion?
You don't get in the middle of it."
Yeah, leave it alone. This is an A and B conversation. See your way out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you're a talker, because my mom, I don't think I got it from either of my parents, because every time I was young, my mom would come in as I was talking to my reflection in the mirror, because my brother had this mirror in his bedroom, so I talked to it, because that's the kind of person I am. And she would come in and she'd just be like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "Myself." She's just like, "Okay, I'm going to close this now." She'll just leave. So it's good that we're both talkers, because that would be that'd be traumatizing to go through that again. The judgment.
See, I live in the world of a judgment-free zone, and I might turn up my nose once in a while, but I'll be like, "Hey, I may not understand where you're coming from, but you do you, boo-boo."
Hey, yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think if there's any other like bad things about living on your own.
Making a budget is a big thing for me.
Oh my god.
So when the first job I got moving out of my parents' house after college was working basically a sales job. So I'd work the end cap of like a sale. So at the end of the aisle, they might set up like this special sale sort of a thing for like 2 weeks at a Sam's Club or Costco, if you've ever been to one. And they'll put out like pillows or hair products or skin creams or bamboo sheets or something weird that you might not see on the shelves, but is, a good quality product, and someone comes in and is selling it to you. Or like the Ninja Foodie. They would take over like 5 aisles worth of stuff. But so I worked that job for, I think it was 9 months or 8 months. I was living in my apartment, and if I didn't make at least 4 sales on top of the minimum, I would be, per week, I'd be really cutting it close for my living expenses. So I got paid an hourly rate of average. So state of Wisconsin hourly rate is $7.25. So at that time, so I was being paid $7.25 an hour, and then I had to make at least sell. I was selling pillows at the time, so I had to sell at least, I think, 9 sets of pillows to buy out my space for the day, that rented space for the unit on the end cap. And then anything else on top of that was pure profit that I got.
Oh, that's nice.
I mean, it broke down differently, but it was basically pure profit. So if I didn't make 4 sales on top of that, 9, I'd be really tight on my budget.
So that's 13 sales. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. So, it was, I am not going to lie that I probably dropped about 20 pounds in a 3 to 4 month period, because we didn't have enough staff. So instead of working the morning shift or the night shift, I worked the whole day for 14 days solid. And I didn't really get more than a 30-minute break. So, and then during that break, if I ate, I drank Mountain Dew because I was exhausted. And pushing myself to do better, and like trying to reach all these goals, and I was super motivated and all this stuff. And long story short, I'm getting distracted here. It was really hard to make a decent budget of saying like, hey, because I made this much this week, I can go get X amount in groceries, or this is how much is going to my electric bill, or this is how much my rent is this month, how much of my paycheck each week is going to rent. I didn't make enough money to have to start paying back my student loans, so I didn't even think about student loans. Versus now, I know roughly each week, with taxes taken out, I will have $360 a week. So $360 a week, that's roughly $1,400 a month, thereabouts. So minus my rent, my average grocery bill for the month, I averaged out to be $100. My car payment, because I had to get a new car, that's about $165 a month. Student loans are technically on COVID deferment, but I still try to pay as much as I can a month if I have wiggle room in my budget. And my electric bill is roughly, if we estimate it out, roughly $50 a month. So out of all of that, if I add all that together, I probably have a surplus of $200 to $300 a month once everything's taken out. Well, then that means those $200 to $300. That means I can keep up with my goals for investments because I've already started investing in a Roth IRA for my retirement. So making it a little more aggressive and adding more money so that overall it'll grow fairly quickly. And then I can start looking at, okay, this month, what is my fun expenses? So what can I go to for fun? So like Friday night, I went and saw In the Heights because it came out and I really wanted to see it real bad.
Don't know what
so
that is.
Went and saw the movie. And I'm going to a wedding this month, so I've got to think about, this will be the second wedding of this month, so I have to think about, okay, I've got to take the gas to get up there, the food expenses because I'm eating out. I'm staying with a friend who's in the wedding, so she's not going to be really able to take care of the food stuff, so it'll be mostly on me. Any shopping that I do during the day, things like that.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm also planning a friend's bachelorette party, so putting money towards my gift to her for that weekend, or budgeting out for the girls that are also coming, like, hey, you guys owe me this much money so I can buy us food and us have little gifts to take home,
Right.
Things like that.
It's so interesting to me to hear you say that because for the last couple of years, I haven't needed a budget, but I definitely have lived on a budget. I've always been very afraid of money because it's the first time wherever I had to actually spend my own money. So I was like, oh no, I can't spend my money. Like that's a lot of money. And then like the first place I went to go live was China. So like living in Guangzhou, which is where I lived in China, it's like north of Hong Kong, very close to there. Living in China, I got all mixed up with my numbers because like 10 RMB is not $10 by any means, but it felt like $10 because it said 10 on it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm spending all this money all the time. And like freaking myself out, like I was going to like blow through my whole entire budget for the month when like honestly I was like spending like nothing on food, nothing on clothes, nothing on anything. And I ended up actually saving a lot of money because I went abroad. But for the whole time I was living in China, I had a really, really hard time spending money because it freaked me out. And I didn't know how to budget. I didn't understand conversion, like what it means for the money to be in a different currency. And so it's interesting to hear you say like you were so worried about spending money because like I was in the same situation, but not in the same situation, because like I didn't actually have to worry about it, but I still did. So I think that definitely is one thing like that's very common for somebody who's moving out on their own is money, because like it's the first time you have to deal with it, first time you're responsible for it, first time you have to worry about it. And I was like you, like I went to mom like maybe the last year I was in China, and I was like, I should probably start saving for retirement, right? She's like, yeah, you should. Yeah. You should be doing that because doesn't your company do that for you? I'm like, no, they do that, for the Chinese people. They don't do it for me. So I wasn't saving any money for retirement through my company, and so I had to put money aside. And since then, I have not done that at all. So I should probably do that. So you're much more adult than I am for doing a Roth IRA. Is that what you're doing? I think I'm doing the same.
So it's basically basically a Roth IRA, for those who don't know, anything that has Roth in front of it, so there is now a Roth 401k too, basically means the money being put into your account has already been taxed, so that when you withdraw it during retirement, you don't have to pay tax on it. Well, that's the long and the short of it. Versus a traditional Roth or traditional 401k, you contribute money prior to tax. So when you remove it as a retiree, you then have to pay tax as you remove it from your account.
Thank you for the Thank you for the lesson. I actually didn't know that. I just know it's called Roth. That's all I know.
I actually sat down during COVID with my the guy that does our finances. Don't tell him, but I probably shouldn't say anything bad of the guy, but yeah.
Like
whatever.
He's gonna watch this show. Come on.
Well, he's definitely a good sales rep. Let's put it that way. He tries to push a little extra things that I don't really need or wanted to deal with, and I'm like, okay, leave me alone. Thanks.
Stop.
Like he came to the office to do the annual people who want to sign up and ask questions and yada yada yada. He's like, hey, good to see you, and I'm like, oh crap, you remembered who I am. Now I have to make conversation with you. This is all inside my head, obviously. But he and I had a really good discussion during COVID, and it was about starting, really thinking about your future. Now that I kind of have a general budget of what I need to pay each month and what I have extra each month, what are my goals for the next few years? Well, I know that I'd like to get a house or at least a condo. So looking at starting to save up for that condo. Well, what's my next biggest budget thing? Technically, my student loans. Those are the biggest things that I want to get out and get out faster. So working on paying those off while trying to save, because then you sit there and you're like, well, I have, 25,000, 30,000, how much ever in student loan debt. How am I supposed to save or buy a house in my early 20s or even in my early 30s? Like, this makes no sense. It's doable. It's just a different type of, anyway, I'm getting distracted.
That's okay.
So basically we sat down, we had this conversation about starting to create security nets. So trying to not only save money personally, invest money for your future, but having that security net of, like, let's say I lose my job because the building burns down and we have no more stock and, oh my gosh, everything just explodes and I no longer have a job. Well, then am I able with my savings account to pay at least 3 to 6 months worth of rent? Because I may find a job right away, but I may not.
Right.
So can I pay those? Or can I talk to my landlord and say, hey, I just lost my job. Can I push off rent for a month? But then, I'll have to pay it double the next month.
Right.
So starting a security net where you want to have, I think it's 3 times the amount of your rent. And like your rent is what I would say is like how much you pay for your apartment, but then I also include that as my electric bill. So can I make 3 times that amount per month so that I don't lose service?
That's a good goal to have. I'm understanding that more now, considering I'm quitting my job without getting another one soon. So I understand the stress of needing to have some sort of a safety net just in case, like, okay, what if I don't get a job by August and then I move in with you in September and then it's like, oh, sorry, no money. What do and then it's like, no, I have to be able to pay the half that I've agreed to and be able to take care of myself so I'm not like relying on anybody else. And I don't want to rely on anybody else. Like, I think that's also something like living alone really gets into your head is like you kind of start to want to take care of yourself. You want to be able to spend the money on like the food you want to buy. You want to be able to spend the money on the things you want to do. You want to spend money on clothes you want to wear. Like you want that money in order to live the life you want to live. And so I completely understand like now that I'm quitting this job here, which pays me pretty good money considering I'm living now in Saudi Arabia. But like going back home terrifies me because it's like that living in the United States is just like something I've feared for so long, and then having to do it on top of not having a job back there right now is like truly, truly terrifying to me.
I think another good thing about living alone, we've talked about it, is that you're kind of able to figure out who you are and who you want to show people.
Yeah.
So at least for me, so when I first moved to Burlington, I did hardly anything in the community. I maybe went to the grocery store. I maybe went to school. I really just kind of went to work, went home, and then hung out with my friend Rachel, who lives more towards Milwaukee. So there's more stuff to do there. But now that I'm here, I'm like trying to learn the community and all this kind of cool stuff that they have. And especially now that I work part-time at a shop downtown. I work at a cupcake shop. I get to learn all of the local gossip and who did what, and who is this, and
Emma, what's your cupcake place called? What's the name?
Oh, Hopscotch Cupcake.
Hopscotch Cupcake.
So it really, me getting more involved in the community kind of started when I joined the theater group. The Malthouse Theater has been around since it's one of the oldest in the state of Wisconsin, which is kind of cool. So they started in a barn in 1930, and then they moved to the old brewery, which is now called the Malthouse, and have been there ever since. So they're really invested in the community, and it's really funny how many people don't even know the theater exists. And when you start to talk about it, or I've talked about it at the shop, they'll be like, I didn't even know we had a playhouse. Oh, this is cool. I should see one of their shows. And I'm like, yeah, you should. It's really well done shows. So it's actually, from there I've met a lot of people. And then also working at my former job, The Landing, which is a wedding venue in town. I met a lot of really cool people there. And they've been able to say, hey, you should go check out this place. You really need to check out this place. So on my list for this summer, there's a mushroom farm. I know it sounds kind of silly, but they've been around since the 70s, and they grow mushrooms and other vegetables and stuff, and they provide their own mushroom bread and some other stuff where they use mushrooms in it, and it sounds really cool. And now that I like mushrooms, I have to go try it out. And I'm like, hey, and they're just on the other side of town.
Another good thing about living by yourself, you start learning that you like foods you thought you didn't like before.
Yeah.
Tomatoes.
Yes.
I thought I hated tomatoes, and then I started to love them when I moved to China.
Yay! Now we can have tomatoes. Just
yes.
Wait, I have 2 tomato plants that I planted, so we'll have tomatoes. And then exploring the local shops. So there's a new, there's a secondhand store. Well, not secondhand store. A consignment shop in town. And I found a really couple of cute pieces from there. There's the local cute Mexican pieces? Market that is 2 blocks from my house.
Cute pieces? What do you mean cute pieces?
Pieces of clothing.
Oh, okay. I was I don't know. I thought you were talking about food, and I was like, pieces of what? Cake? Pieces of cookie? I don't know what you were talking about. Clothing.
I found this kimono. See? It's really cute, and it has little daisies all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Very cute. I found that at a secondhand store, or the consignment store, and the lady was super cool. And then, there's a little Mexican market that I can get produce and enough stuff for a couple of meals for under $20. And it's amazing. So I can get herbs and spices that would normally cost me at Pick and Save or a normal grocery store $5 a piece, where I can get a packet about yay big, yay wide by yay wide, for $2. And it'll last me even longer than what I got from the store. So, and they're really nice people. It's not air conditioned, but hey, I'll take what I can get.
I see what you're saying when it comes to the first year you move to a new community, you kind of are very I don't want anybody to know I'm here. That's how I was both the first year in China and the first year in Saudi Arabia, because I just didn't feel comfortable there yet. I don't know, maybe we're very similar in like it. I've always seen it as like it takes me a year to get accustomed to the job because I always move for my job, and so it takes me a year to feel like comfortable in my job. And once I feel comfortable with the job, then I can start to feel like, okay, now I can be social. Now I can get to know my community and the people who live here and the people who work with me and the people who are, just a part of this amazing new place that I'm living in. And then I normally leave after the second year. So I don't normally know what happens after that, but I've stayed here in Saudi for 3 years, and I've realized that I think 2 years is normally my point where I need to leave, because this last year has been like kind of back to that, well, I don't want to go out anywhere. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. So I think it's time to go. It's time to leave.
And I kind of feel like that too. Like, I'll get this. Now, I've lived in my apartment for 3 years. It'll be 4 in January. And I felt like I call it like an itch. Like, you feel like you need to leave or go somewhere else. And I've kind of felt that, like, it was 2019, like, towards the end of it, I was like, okay, I need to move. I need to go somewhere else. And, obviously, then 2020 happened, and I couldn't really do anything. And then, like, this year, I'm on the fence. Like, it's half of me where it's saying, you know what, you're in a good spot. You have a pretty decent job. You have awesome coworkers. And on top of that, you're doing financially pretty okay. So, and you live in a community that's relatively cool. There's a lot of people here that are really, really interesting and really fun. So I'm like, you know what? I'm in a good spot. But on the same hand, it's like this back burner dream that I'm just going to, like, have a giant party at my house and have a giant map on the wall and a big circle. And in this circle is like a 500-mile radius from where I live. And you throw a dart, and wherever it lands, whoever gets the closest amount of darts together, I have to live within somewhere in that area. And then pick up and move, go to that spot.
So Emma, can I propose instead of a 500-mile area, but could we just put the whole entire world up there and see what happens?
Well, you could start with the world, and then once you get relatively all close to the darts of the map of the world, and then you go smaller and explode the map, and then keep going until you get to, like, that 10-mile radius. Okay, this is exactly where I have to live.
I've been trying to get Emma to live with me abroad for, like, the last 3 years now. Yeah. She came to visit me in China. If you guys saw some of the pictures at the beginning of the podcast, all of those are from China. When you came and visited. Yeah, all of them. So
you basically took all the photos, because I was, like, looking back into my camera, and I'm like, I took hardly any photos except for, like, when we were hiking in the mountain, and I'm like,
hey, careful with that. That's a very specific story that you cannot let out of the bag until it's time.
Understood.
We will get there, just not this podcast.
No, it's not time for that.
No time for that. That's a whole entire podcast in and of itself.
Oh, God. I'm trying to think.
I took all the photos.
Yeah, you took all the photos. I'm trying to get back on topic.
Right. Okay, living on your own. So we were talking about getting to know our community within the second year. So you get to know also yourself, which is what you were saying. And I agree with that. I don't think I would be the person I am had I not gone abroad. And I think it's very same if, like, saying as I would not be the person I am had I not moved out. Like, I think I needed to leave my parents' house, or I guess my mom's condo, and, go and see what the world is like out there. Because all throughout college, I was out of my mind scared about living on my own. I, for some reason, thought that, I was going to be murdered because I just, like, could not imagine my future at all. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to die, obviously, because I just can't think of what could possibly happen after college. But luckily that didn't happen. And instead, I ended up traveling abroad and teaching English, and it's probably the best decision I ever made in my whole entire life. So I'm really lucky that I got the privilege to do it, and now I'm lucky again to be going back home and starting a new adventure there.
I have to agree with you when you like I was nervous too. So I wasn't so nervous in college because I knew that I had to go back home and work do another internship because I had 2 degrees, so I had to do 2 internships. So I was working remotely for a swing orchestra out of New York, and I moved home into my parents' house, and I kind of felt like stuck. And I'm like, I want to move out on my own, but I was working nights at a bar and restaurant and sweating my butt off in a kitchen, and because I knew I could do it, but like I just felt so stuck, like I couldn't go anywhere or move out on my own because I couldn't financially afford it. And once the internship stopped, was applying for job after job after job anywhere that I could get it, and only hearing back from a few places.
Yeah,
so
that was me too.
It was really, really hard, and I was sitting here looking for the first thing that I could find, and of course, I find a job that's not so great, but it worked for that time, and then that job led me to my current job. So it had to have been meant to be that I had to go through that struggle to get where I am.
And
so
your
I
first
agree,
job
though.
was the pillow job, right? The one that you were selling the pillows?
Yes, the pillow job.
And then her second job is Max Apparel and then the cupcake shop.
Yes. Yep. So it led me to a great ton of people. And I think when you're living on your own, it's interesting. So I'm an introvert, right? You're kind of forced to become an extrovert. Because if you stay by yourself and you stay in your apartment and you just go to work and you just come back home, and let's say you live in an area where none of your friends are close. I mean, you're obviously overseas. I'm in an area where all of my friends are north of me, or like 2 hours at least. You have to find another thing to do. You have to go out there and do something else.
But I don't know if I would consider that being extroverted, because I would go out to a park and sit on a bench by myself. Like, that's what I would do in order to get out of my apartment, because I had the same feeling as you, where it's like, I can't just stay here. I will literally go crazy, and I'm already crazy enough. So I need to go out and, actually be around people, but it wasn't like I was actually interacting with people. So I don't know if I completely agree with it being like, you have to become an extrovert, because I think, I don't think you really do, but I see what you're saying is that you will have more extroverted tendencies because you're like, okay, I can't completely be on my own 100% and be, mentally sane.
Yes. It's basically what I'm trying to say is you have to, like what you said, is getting those extroverted tendencies, but like for to go like that first year when you like you said, comparing the first year that you moved somewhere to the second year, like going out somewhere just to go somewhere, or like I'd walk to the grocery store, or like go sit in a park, great. But for me, like I felt like in that next year I really had to push myself to go and do something outside of my comfort zone. I hadn't done theater in so long. I was like, I'm not going to be any good at it. My audition is going to suck. It's just going to be awful. And I ended up meeting a great group of people. And they're now, Megan's my boss at the cupcake shop. I talk with her mom all the time.
You met Megan through the play?
Yeah, she was the director of the play.
Oh, you did tell me that. That's right. That's kind of cool. So you met your current boss through drama. That's a nice little connection.
Yes. And the choreographer of the show also works at the cupcake shop. The producer, her mom, stops in at the cupcake shop all the time. I met a lot of really cool people because of that group of people. So
now I understand what you're saying, because I guess I thought you were just talking about like going out and like exploring the community, but I I definitely did that here in Saudi. My second year, I forced myself to get into more like community based places because one of the things that I felt like I kind of took away from myself from moving from China to Saudi was my social life. Because I mean, just
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, there's not much to do in the community itself because there's a lot of restrictions on what you can do. So you end up having to kind of like look more near you. And I definitely found like, so I got into a group of people who are playing games every single week, and I got into a group of people who are playing D&D every single week, and I got into a group of people who were meeting after that D&D meeting to just talk and gossip, and then so I definitely got into a lot more social aspects of my community in my compound than I did the first year, definitely.
Yeah. That's I think that's what helps you stay in a community is finding a really good group of people that you vibe with, that you get along with, and that you appreciate and understand where they're coming from.
And I can see why, like for me on my end, like that's one of the reasons I'm leaving is because my community is gone. And, with people living abroad, like that's probably the hardest part about living on your own is that you don't have a stable friend group that's going to stay there because everybody's off to the new adventure. Everybody's off or going home or they're off, doing whatever. So all of my friends are leaving this year, and so there's no reason to stay here, and that's one of the reasons why I was like, well, the next place I go, I really want to be somewhere. I kind of already have a friend group. I don't have to like force it as much, so that's why I'm really excited to be moving in with you because I'll at least have you, and I know that you have your friends, and I'm not gonna try to like mooch them from you or whatever, but it would be nice to just be like, okay, these are Emma friends. Let's see if I get along with them, and if not, then I can meet other people. I think of what else is like good or bad about living on your own. I think one of the nice things that I didn't realize, when I was younger, had this misconception about like what it would be like living on your own, and I guess I thought, you wouldn't need as much support, and so it's kind of nice to learn that you're actually always looking for support. I mean, I call my mom very frequently. I call you a lot. I call my other friends a lot. And you just realize how important that is when you are living by yourself because especially abroad. But I'm thinking even for somebody who's living like, what, how far away are you from your dad and Lisa, your stepmom?
I'm about an hour and 15 to either side of the parents.
But I mean, like that's still significant. So I guess I'm just saying that like, it's nice to realize that you can always get that support and that support is very, very important because you'll come up against things that you're like, oh, what am I doing? I don't know. And you can call someone instead of being like, I think like I think back to when I first when I first got into Guangzhou and just not even knowing like how to feed myself. Just like because I didn't know how to cook, and so I was just like really struggling to like feed myself like the first couple months, and then luckily I met somebody there who taught me how to make stir fry. You met her. She was my second roommate. Well, she's my roommate at my second apartment because I didn't have a roommate in my first apartment, Heather, and she taught me how to cook. Thank you, Heather, for making sure I lived. Because before that, I was just like eating out all the time and just buying stuff and eating really, really poorly because I just didn't know how to feed myself, didn't know how to cook. So I was just like, it was not good. It was not good.
I get you. And I have to agree, like, you really learn how to eat. It's interesting because I made a joke earlier, you could have ice cream for breakfast. And yeah, the novelty is there, you can. But then you got to think, well, if I, instead of eating ice cream for breakfast, want to have, go grab eggs from the store and, have the eggs for longer than just the one scoop of ice cream or the couple of scoops of ice cream I have for breakfast. Like, it's putting that food into, okay, if I go out and buy eggs and peppers and onions, okay, I can pre-make little, like, egg scramblers. And I can have those for a couple of meals. So me spending a total of maybe $5 to $6 on all those ingredients, I've just made meals for 3 or 4 breakfasts versus, a scoop or a little pint of ice cream.
There's definitely something to be said about adulting as you live on your own. Because I definitely experienced the same thing. You think to yourself, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to eat poorly and I'm going to, do whatever I want. But then you just kind of realize that, for me, I mean, I know back probably in the States this isn't true, but for me in China, everything that was really healthy was cheaper than all the unhealthy stuff. So it was more like, because I was all budget crazy and thinking I had to save my money as much as possible, I was always buying like all these vegetables, and I rarely get any like anything sugary, anything snackish. And I ended up just like really getting into a very good diet because of that. And I think it is something you just do as you grow older, as you become more of an adult. Maybe not everybody, but you do start to like that better food, because it's the bad food makes you feel like crap, and you're just like, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel horrible every single day. So I guess I should, eat broccoli or whatever.
It's kind of funny. Just like my coworker, in retrospect, so she lives with her roommate, so my coworker Rachel, and they eat out all the time. They DoorDash, because they live in Milwaukee, so they DoorDash everything to their apartment. So they can order food from basically any restaurant, and the Uber basically goes to the restaurant, picks up the food, and then brings it to their apartment. So they don't have to worry about cooking. They have that access. But it is more expensive. Versus where I live, there's you can DoorDash McDonald's and Burger King. And I'm like, I'm not about to go. I haven't been to McDonald's in probably a good 6 to 9 months, just because I've gotten to the point where I want my food to actually taste like something good, and not
go all the way through you in 20 minutes.
Yeah. I'm like, I'd rather actually have some taste to it and have some more body than just some interesting mixed meat maybe and cardboard tasting bread, But that's also a really fun thing about living alone too, is that you get to experiment with things. Yeah. So you can try a new restaurant, you can try making a new food.
You can pick up a hobby.
What I like about my own kitchen is being able to, buy something that I normally wouldn't make. Like a couple months ago, I bought duck breast. And I've had duck before, and it's really good. But I had never tried it on my own, and I was looking up a bunch of different recipes, and it's really good. So I'm like, all right, I gotta find another place that I can get it from that I get a higher quality of meat versus if I go to the store and just buy in bulk of the cheapest meat I can find, But that's something I'm learning too, is I grew up where we bought everything on a budget, where we'd go to the clearance meat section and the clearance pasta and the clearance rice, because meat and pasta and rice will fill you the most, right? So we always bought from there, and then a bunch of the vegetables came from the garden. Well, now I don't have a garden, but I still have this tendency to go to the clearance section and buy the pasta and the rice and the meat. But now I'm kind of trying to work myself into, okay, you go to the store with a purpose, right? So I'm going to the store. This week was, all right, I've been craving salads left and right, so I bought all the fixings that I would want to eat in a salad. I had meat in my freezer, so I don't need to go buy meat. And it's really working on changing a mindset of okay, well, working to buy meals for a whole week versus, oh, hey, this is on clearance, let me go pick this up.
Right.
Oh, hey, this is on sale, I should go pick this up. And for me, I know that, like, at least with my body type, carbohydrates are like my body's way of storing fat. So, like, pastas and rice and stuff are not my friend. So I really have to watch the amount of intake on that. So if I do more proteins or vegetable-based pastas, it's better for me.
Yeah.
So, interesting. So now I kind of want to learn how to make sweet potato gnocchi, because that sounds delicious. Or I did make cauliflower pizza crust, and that was really good. So I needed to drain more water out of that too. So it was a little bit liquidy. But it was fun.
It's not going to really apply to, well, I don't know about you, but like I think you saw my apartment in China and you were like, why does this place look like you don't live in it? You remember?
Yeah. Because you guys hardly had any of your personal effects. It was more of like, hey, here's some furniture and call it a day.
And that was one of the things that was really difficult about, living abroad. I really thought that I wasn't allowed to kind of have my personal stuff because I didn't, in my mind, I wasn't going to stay there very long. Like I had my first apartment in China for a year and then I moved in with Heather for the second year. And then I left the third year, I left and I came here. And luckily I met a friend who was very into nesting, which is like you furnish your house. And that's what I did here. I mean, like you can see by the blue wall, I actually painted this along with the rest of my apartment. And this was the first place where I actually was like taking my money and spending it so that I was building a home. And yeah, it's probably not the homiest home you could ever have, but it's much better than what I had back in China. And probably the reason I was able to stay here for an extra year, if these walls would have still been white and I didn't buy any personal things, didn't make it feel like I was living here, I probably would have left within the first year. Definitely. I would have gone crazy. Staring at the white walls.
It was interesting. So when I moved into my last apartment and then into this place, I had all hand-me-down furniture that, while it was functional, it just didn't feel like home. So I decided during COVID, I was like, you know what? I am making this my space. Like I'm making it my own. So I redid the whole living room based on the curtains that I got from my parents as a housewarming gift. And it turned out really cool. So they're like blue, navy blue, some like gray and teal blue kind of colors. So I was like, all right, well, I want a blue sofa. That'll be a fun accent piece. So then I found all my cousin's artwork that's like navy blue and teal blue and royal blue and with pops of yellow. Because I was like, I like the color yellow as an accent to blue. So I was like, cool, we'll do that. And now I've got a royal blue love seat. I've got 2 light gray accent chairs. My living room carpet is different shades of blue with some splashes of yellow and gray. And then I made an ottoman, or it's actually called a poof. So it's basically a big beanbag that is teal blue and navy blue with a cream background and yellow with an accent in there too. And it turned out really, really cool. And I'm like, hey, look what I did. Like in my last apartment, I had some posters up, and that was maybe it for decoration, but it really didn't feel at home in that apartment.
Yeah.
And I truly think, too, you have to find a place that represents your personality. So I am definitely a quirky human. I'm a little bit awkward, but I'm definitely fun, and I'm really sweet, but I have a bit of a sass. This apartment is just so odd in how they made it. But the colors are great, and they're fun. And the kitchen's a fairly decent size. I have a porch on the second floor. Like, what? Like a full-size porch that could be someone else's bedroom, for crying out loud. Like, you could have closed it all off and made another bedroom, right? Like, this is like the summertime bedroom, just so you're fully aware when it gets too hot. You'd have to go through my bedroom
I'm gonna
to get to it.
On the porch. This is basically what Emma saying.
The stupidest part about the porch, they put a window in the living room where they should have put a door so that anyone in the living room could get to the porch. But they put the door in the second bedroom.
They
So
wanted you to
that
crawl
if
out
the
the
second
window.
bedroom is closed off,
Guess
right?
the porch is yours.
I'm
Congrats.
like, I debated it because it's big enough that I could, if it's all the way open, I could literally crawl through it with no problem. But then I'm like, well, then I'd have a cat on the porch all the time. So that might not be the greatest thing in the world. You might get a little, because it's the southwest corner, so it gets really, really hot, really, really fast.
I just want to
And
say
I'm like,
to the point that you made, like, you want to find a place that is yourself.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, but just for anybody who is maybe on a budget and who is in maybe my situation where you're given an apartment, you can make any place yourself, because that's what I did here. And I mean, like, I could have, and I in a way I did when I moved to my very first apartment. The first thing, and I did this in my second apartment, and I did it here. The first thing I always did was I just rearranged the whole entire bedroom. No matter how it was set up, I always like seemed to like completely flip it, because it just seemed to be like however the person had it beforehand. I was just like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So I would just move it to fit what I wanted or what I saw in my head. And I think by doing that, by rearranging a room, by putting in one piece of furniture, two pieces of furniture, a poster, like Emma was saying, then you can make it your own. Like, if you're on a budget or you're not able to maybe buy the place of your dreams at this point, you know, don't think to yourself, oh shit, then I'm never gonna be like happy where I live, because you can be. You just have to make it work. Because like I didn't buy this apartment. This apartment was given to me, so I made it work. And I love this apartment. I have a balcony, which is really cool, and then I have a whole bedroom that's as big as my living room, so it's really nice. And I have a big window. Like, I got very lucky with the apartment I was given. But like, even if I hadn't been given this apartment, I think painting the walls, you know, getting some things that were mine, buying some little knickknacks that I like that weren't even that expensive. Like, doing those little things will really make you feel at home, just in case you might not be as lucky as Emma and get, you know, your weird place first.
Right, and that's when I was looking too. Was my biggest thing when I was looking was a budget. Like, how much can I afford? And I'm like, you know, I really was looking for something less than I was currently at that time renting for, and because I had such a small budget that I could work with, and I wanted a 2-bedroom, which in my area, on average, a 2-bedroom is $825 a month. That's on average. For a nice one with like everything included. So there's some things that I'm like, you know, I'm about $100 less than that. So there are some things that I have to, it's a give and a take. So I live in an older home. Is it hot all the time? Yes. Do I have drafty windows? Yes, because it's an old house and there's a lot of maintenance and repair that has to go into it. So while it fits for me because it's this awkward setup and there's some really nice colors and I just like the whole vibe of the place, it may not work for someone who's used to living in the city in a nicer home, who has to move out for the first time, and they're like, I need a place that has a built-in air conditioner, that has this, that, and the other thing. It's what you need, too, what you're accustomed to, and what's going to make you comfortable in that area or new community that you're moving into.
Yeah.
Or if you're given, you know, making it comfortable for you.
Right. I was going to go to the extent of saying that maybe you don't even need that. But again, I think that's just my personality. I was put into an apartment that like was very small, didn't have very big bathroom. The bathroom had like the shower in the bathroom. So like there's no door. The shower is just where the toilet was. So you're just showering next to your toilet. The same here, you know. And I've gotten used to that. Like, that's just something I got used to. And then in China, like, I think a lot of people know there are Western toilets and there are Eastern toilets. And the Western toilets are what we're used to. And the Eastern toilets are where you squat over and you go to the bathroom. And that's something I also got used to. Like, I've never squatted over and, like, gone to the bathroom. But I actually ended up really liking it. And I learned that it's actually very good, like, for your health. So, you know, it taught me a lot, and I think there is something to be said about, like, if you were wanting to go abroad, you know. Or if you are in an apartment that you're like, man, this place doesn't have like great AC, or it doesn't have like this, that, or the other thing that you're used to, there's something to be said about you can adapt to it. Now, maybe it's not going to be your favorite thing about the apartment, you know.
Yeah.
But like one of the things I hated about my old apartment was that mosquitoes got into my damn apartment because I had to keep the window open to dry my clothes because there are no dryers in China. No dryers. There are washers,
But
no dryers.
you could keep the window closed to dry your clothes.
What? Emma, where were you like 5 years ago telling me this?
You never brought that up. I'm terribly sorry. I think living alone, there's less accountability.
Yeah.
To
do anything.
Either a roommate or a partner. I think I have more now that I have a cat, but not even that because the cat's kind of on his own. But if I had gotten a dog, I'd have to be making sure I get home at a decent hour, that I walk the dog, that there's not accountability, responsibility. It's less responsibility for me. No, that doesn't make sense either because it is more responsibility to live on your own because you got to focus on all this stuff to make ends meet.
But I know what you mean. Like your time is your own.
Yes, where you don't have to worry about, hey, do I need to go get groceries because both my roommate and I ate through everything and now we have no food in the house, or I don't have to worry about budgeting for a second person. Right. Which is also, can be a negative because if you have that second income, it's less money that you have to spend and more money that you can put towards savings. But it's interesting to think about. You get more, like, freedom to do what you want, but at the same time, it's more at cost or more expensive to do it on your own versus if you had another person.
Sure.
So,
I mean, I can definitely see, like, with the accountability thing, like with cleaning, I'll be better when I am with you. Like with Heather, when I was living with Heather, I was always cleaning my dishes, always when I was done with them because she was allergic to a lot of stuff, and also just because I wanted to be nice, And I only had like one bowl that I ate out of, so I kind of had to keep it clean. But like living here, what I found is that I'll like leave my dishes in the sink for a really long time and it'll start to stink, and it's like, okay, I gotta go clean my sink, not because I'm good, but because I'm going to. And I found that when I had my job or when I was actually working, I did a better job of like keeping a schedule. So like every Friday I would sweep my floors, I would wash my dishes, I would do my laundry. That was what I did on Friday. But now that we're done and it's kind of our summer break right now, I'm not doing any of that. I haven't cleaned my floors in like maybe a week. I have dishes I need to clean. I'm sure that I need to go do my laundry soon. And I have to pack because I have to leave in 3 weeks or so. So it's a lot to do, but it's like I'm the only one who's gonna do it. I can't rely on somebody to, like, I can't rely on my mom to go and do it for me. I gotta do it myself. So it's fun until it's not.
I highly encourage people to reach out to keep in touch with friends and family from back home, but also to push themselves to go out and make new friends.
And if they are struggling, don't be afraid to ask for help from anybody.
Yep, exactly. So,
a mom, a dad, a friend, a therapist if you need to.
Yeah. And anybody would really help. And I think for me, reaching out to a therapist helped have that outside perspective into my life that really helped me figure out what I needed to do. So that worked for me.
Yeah.
My mom, love her to pieces. She's always going to agree with whatever I think, and then only till the last minute tell me, I don't really think this is a good idea. So,
anybody who's wondering, I've not talked to a therapist. I've been, I guess, lucky enough to feel pretty okay, but I have had ups and downs, and I do see the benefit of it. Like, it probably could have helped me through times that I might have not, it would have maybe been a lot simpler for me. But I just was in a situation where I didn't feel as though I needed one and just ended up not choosing to do that. But I did constantly reach out to Emma. I constantly reached out to another friend of mine. I reached out to my mom multiple times. So if you know are living abroad and you are feeling like depressed or upset or angry, I do encourage you to like reach out to somebody, and if that somebody's a therapist, then do what you gotta do, you know,
Yeah.
to feel
Reach
that.
out to whoever you can, keep in touch, and know that it's just it's a bump in the road, and you'll get through it. Don't worry. It's how you grow and develop as a human.
And there will be a time where you can look back and say, that did teach me something. Trust and believe, this whole entire year, I've been trying very hard to say, there's a reason for this. There is a reason. And I'm sure that everybody can relate to that with COVID and everything. That there was something we all learned, whatever that is. Hopefully we don't have to learn it again anytime soon.
Well, if we're looking at from a cyclical or a cycle point of view, I mean, we'll wait for another 100 years. So,
yeah, we've done our time. It's the next century's problem at this point.
Yes.
All right, so I think we definitely have covered a lot here today. So thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and head out. Anyways, thank you for joining us, and bye.
I'm not a sad girl.